Oh,
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to our live Thursday night tech talk. Got some stuff to talk about tonight on bow maintenance.
yep.
We'll let a few folks get on here, get all our stuff percolating, make sure our feed is legit. Let me click on it here. Yeah.
I'm glad you see it because it ain't coming up on my end.
We're going to talk bow maintenance, coronavirus.
Oh, Lord.
I don't know what else. Anything y'all want to talk about, we'll talk about. So thank you for watching. If you're watching the replay, I'd be curious to know if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay. So if you're watching live and you got a second, type in watching live or live. And if you're watching the replay, type in replay, just so we can kind of keep track of, it'll let me know whether this is a good time to do it or if I can move it around and maybe make it better or whatever. So either type in live or replay, it'll help us out. We're talking about bow maintenance tonight, along with whatever else y'all want to talk about. Here in the middle of the Corona season, not talking about the beer, unfortunately. So,
Tyler and Brad said they watch live.
heck yeah.
So we appreciate it, Brad and Tyler.
Absolutely. So I got a bow here. We're going to talk bow maintenance. I came up with 10 quick things to kind of look at. And this is like, for most bow hunters right now, they're not really messing with their bow. A lot of people don't turkey hunt with their bow, and it's just sitting in the closet, and it's going to sit there till about August when they start thinking about deer hunting.
Yep.
So anyway, I got a bow here. We're going to talk about a couple things. The most obvious is probably waxing the bowstring. Get you some wax. There's really not a bad wax. Boning makes some nice stuff. Get you some wax. And the main thing is, when you put wax on the string, don't put it on the serving, which is, that stuff that wraps around the string, protects it, like where your knot clicks on and around the cams. You don't want any wax there because it'll just gob up, get in the cam. It's a big mess. So you put it all over the string. Usually I'll take my finger and rub it in. And then if you want to take it a step further, get you some, really any kind of even a sewing thread would work. But if you got some string serving, take it. And what I'll do is wrap it one loop around the string where there's no serving, and I'll run it up and down. And you can use it and peel off the old wax before you apply the new wax that way. It'll kind of clean the string, get all that old gunky stuff off. Then put your new wax on, rub it in with your fingers till you feel it getting hot, and it'll kind of get down in those fibers. So that's the most common thing that you need to do.
And now a lot of people like scorpion venom, I believe it is, or scorpion venom.
Yeah.
They make a liquid wax. This is one that I got last year when it's by Bonin. I got it in my prime black box when I registered my bow. But you don't have to. It's got a little applicator up here. You just press it on the string, and it's more of a liquid.
Yep.
So you really don't have to rub it in, but it still lubricates your string and everything.
Yeah, definitely wax your strings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have some come in occasionally and people will have like laid the wax to it. And I'm talking about like it's gobbed all over the string. And I bet there's probably a several feet per second difference in that string versus if you stripped all that wax off. So don't go overboard with it. And generally, I don't even wax my string until I start seeing those tiny little fibers start drying out. You know what I mean? You can just look at it and see that it's getting dry, and then I'll hit it with wax. So,
I mean, that's one of the big questions we get in the shop is, well, how often do I wax my string?
yeah,
And normally, it depends on how much you shoot, but I say roughly, just me personally, 150, 200 shots. And if it's looking a little dry,
yeah.
I'll hit it with some wax. And if you're shooting a tournament or you're going deer hunting,
Yeah, I was gonna say if you know you're going out in the rain, especially,
wax it.
yeah,
That'll keep that water out.
of them fibers. So that's the first thing. Hit the old string with some wax. The second thing, according to what bow you got, check all your screws on the bow, whether it be the modules. Some bows have different screws in the limb pockets. Just your cable slide. Make sure everything's good and snug. Once in a blue moon, somebody will come in and say, I had this weird rattle going on, and we'll just kind of twang on it, and usually like a module's coming loose or something like that. It's another one of those things you can even put some like blue Loctite on, keep it snug. We're back. We lost signal again. Hang on a second. This happens every week. Okay. Sorry about that.
Most of the comments we get and say they watch us live. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know why it's like 5 minutes in every week, our live feed cuts off, and then I have to go back in and hit resume. Sorry about that. I got to figure that out.
Yep.
I'll do some research this week and see. So keep your screws good and tight. Keep any excess moisture off your bow. So like if we go shoot in the rain, a tournament or hunting, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna take a kind of a cloth and get all the excess moisture off my bow. And then on top of that, I'm gonna get some of those scent-free like lubrication wipes. I can't remember who makes them, but and I'm gonna hit all my exposed bolts, because if you don't, you're gonna have some surface rust on it,
Yeah.
you know, before a couple days pass.
Best thing I found is the little Remington makes little gun wipes.
Yeah.
They come, you just peel it out, and it's got the oil on it. Just take and dab all your exposed screws, anything like that. Keep that surface rust off of them.
All this stuff we're talking about, I'm gonna post in the comments after the video. If you need any of it, feel free to click the link and order, and it'll help out the old channel. We appreciate that. But anyway, so yeah, if you get the bow wet, wipe it down when you get back home. I know you may, like, we went and shot tournaments before, throw them in the case, they're soaking wet, we get back, but then I kind of break down stuff, wipe it down, get all the excess moisture out of it, and that way your bolts won't be all rusted.
Tyler Zink sent us a message. He said, "Here's one for you." He said he got him a Hoyt Vulcan. It's a 60 to 70 pound bow. When he puts it in spec, it's pulling 76 pounds. Number one, is this even safe? And then what the heck?
There's a couple of things. It could be, I'm guessing it's a 70-pound bow. There are some older Hoyt tune charts that have a couple incorrect things on them. So it might be worth a call to Hoyt to make sure that tune chart is right. That's the first thing I would do. We know for a fact there's like 3 or 4 older bows, and they put the wrong cable, bus cable length on there. And we made a couple, and we were like, what is going on? So we call Hoyt, and they say, we messed up for a couple of years. Change it to this. That would probably be my first thing. And then if that's not it, it's hard to say what else. I mean,
it is,
you know, if you're, because usually y'all seen the videos, I put strings and cables on, check the axle to axle, the brace height. If that's right, then I check the poundage, and usually, you know, like 3 pounds is heavy or whatever is okay, but 6 pounds or whatever, that's kind of pushing it. So I don't know. You don't want to over stress those limbs. I'd probably call Hoyt and just say, hey, here's what's happening. Is this tune chart spec right? That's probably what I would do.
Yeah.
Another thing is check if you're shooting a drop away rest with a cord or a limb driven rest with a cord, occasionally check that cord, because they will stretch. Make sure your rest is coming all the way up and that sort of thing. If you get the bow in a little bit of heat and out of the heat and in the heat and out of the heat, I've seen people come in and say, all of a sudden my arrows are falling like crap, whatever. We shoot it real quick through the paper and they're kicking tail high. And then we see that they're hitting the rest. And all I do is take that cord and barely pull it through, advance it through the cable a smidgen, and boom, it'll bullet hole again. So what I end up doing is cutting that burn end off that goes through the cable, reburning it, putting it back, and it's good. But it just means that that cord to that rest is slightly stretched. And on a limb-driven rest, you'll notice the rest will slowly start rising up, and it's easy on the limb driver rest because you can just tighten it back down.
It is.
So anyway, check your paper tune. That's something to do, like, you know, before hunting season every year. And I brought this thing along with us. They make these paper tune it things. It's a little box you set up, and it comes with like 10 or so paper tune sheets. Real simple to like set up on a bench or something and shoot through at a target and check your paper tune. They're not that expensive. I'll put them in the old link below. Or you can build one out of PVC, you know, for 20, 30 bucks, and it's not that hard. There's all kind of plans online. So
Yeah.
just, you know, before you get ready for the season, whether it be 3D or hunting, shoot through the paper, make sure you're still good. Check your loop. We see a lot of bows come in and the loops look sketchy. They'll be all frayed up and nasty, and we'll be like, you might want to change that before you get hurt. And then, you know, some people, it rarely happens, but they'll have a nick on their release, and it'll slowly start eating away at that loop, you know, and it'll start fraying it up. So check that out. You don't want to bust yourself upside the head. Wouldn't be Wouldn't be a good thing.
Now we was talking a second ago, like if you use your little bit of gun oil on those rim wipes, do not wipe down your cable slide
No.
in any which way, shape, or form.
It'll just attract dirt.
Attract-
It'll start grabbing and squeaking. I did a video about that before. We've had people come in with it.
Yeah.
We have to try to wash it off, and then we'll take newspaper and rub up and down it to try to let that graphite and that newspaper soak up the stickiness. So yeah, don't get anywhere near that because it could be bad. Another thing to do, and we don't see this a whole lot, but occasionally peep sights will have a burr on them and they will cut the fibers of the bowstring. Twice now. Once was like 20 years ago, a bunch of peep sights came out and they were cutting strings, and mine was one of them. And I'm in the middle of a 3D shoot and notice I got 2 strands that have broke, and I'm freaking out. Luckily, I made it through the shoot, although I was freaked out and it was kind of semi-dangerous, but I went ahead and made it through the shoot because I done drove like 6 hours to get there, and it was just a mess. So, and then a couple years ago, we had a manufacturer come out and just started making peep sights.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple bows come back in with cut strands, so I called them. I'm like, listen, I'm replacing strings on these bows. You know, we ordered like 100 of these peep sights, so they replaced the peeps, and then I think they even paid for a couple strings to get replaced. So I mean, they held up to it. But as far as I know, on the market currently, there's none that are known to do it. I know even G5, those Meta Peeps, some of the first runs of those about 10 years ago were cutting them left and right. So
I think they said that peep manufacturer, I think they said they had one bad batch get out
Yeah.
that didn't get run through.
And I know stuff happens, but that's a pretty big, you start popping people's bowstrings, you know.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
You're going to have to. So the next thing I wrote down was listen for any squeaks or abnormal stuff going on. A couple times a year, we'll have somebody come in, they'll pull their bow back, and we'll hear something. Usually it's one of 3 things. It's the limb pocket making some sort of a settling noise. That's probably the least common. 2, it's most of these new bows don't need any kind of a grease or anything on the axles. But once in a blue moon, for whatever reason, they'll just get super dry and it'll be making a racket. And all I do is generally knock the axle out, hit it with some lithium grease, put it back in, and it's fixed. That's a once or twice a year thing for us. They also make these little oil pins, and it's literally got like a needle tip, and you'd have to be careful. You don't want to get this everywhere, but you could get down in there to that bearing in the cam and get a little bit of oil on it and probably avoid the whole bow press situation. Or 3, it is the cable slide and or roller, something's happening there. And it could be a bunch of stuff there. Like TJ said, if something gunky's got on it and it's catching, if you got the rod, or if it's a roller, again, you really don't want to put a bunch of lubrication on it. But if you have to, it needs to be just a tiny bit on that bearing of it. But we've had that happen a few times.
We even had one, this has been several years back, but he was hunting and he come in, he's like, man, something's going on with my draw or something. And we got to watching, and it was a cable slide, but he hunted in a bunch of pines. And I guess he had a bow hanger or something that he put his bow on. He actually got pine sap on there.
Yeah.
And that was a mess.
Yeah, and it was like it was like, I don't know how to describe it, just tension, pulling it back. So listen, if you hear anything abnormal, check it out. And you can usually get somebody to listen, you know, top, bottom, is it a cam, is it a limb pocket? Is it this roller? You can kind of tell what's going on. And I've even had people come in and think it's one of those things, and it ends up being like their sight light or something is coming unscrewed, and they're not even thinking about it, and just making a rattling as they go. And then the last thing I wrote down was check your servings on your string. So the most common place for an accident to happen on your cam, there will be a spot where you get your let off from, and usually it's a pretty sharp hump. If you look at your cam or module, right there is where serving separation can happen the worst. According to the bow, you know, if it's an aggressive drawing bow, it can happen a lot worse than, you know, a smoother drawing bow. But check out all your servings, make sure they're good. That's something you'd have to press the bow and reserve it or get new strings and cables for. But check all that out. Even your center serving, make sure it's not separating in the middle of the loop or above or below it. That type of thing. And then, of course, if you got any like loose strands randomly for some reason, it's probably time to replace your string. And we recommend doing that every 2 to 3 years, unless, like on a tournament bow, I'd probably say every year, because you're putting a lot of shots through it. and you just want to make sure, it's perfect. So that's mostly what I had wrote down.
And then also, when you check your serving and everything, just take a peek where your loops are connected on the cam to that post. Just make sure that there's no,
Yeah.
you're going, sometimes you will have a little separation, but 9 times out of 10, you're not. You just want to make sure that it's not, you don't have a burr on that post, because we've seen it a couple times. It ain't been much, but
if you see like bare string material through the serving, you need to get it looked at, because it could be almost
burr.
cutting a strand or whatever. So next week we're going to announce a new giveaway, so that'll be cool. We just shipped out some broadheads for our last giveaway, so thank y'all for entering for that. We'll have all the details coming up next week. How y'all holding up with this corona stuff? In South Carolina, luckily they hadn't issued the, what are they calling it, the
shelter at home,
shelter in place thing, so we're still good to go. Of course, we can't go eat at restaurants and that sort of thing, which I'm fine with that, because I'm about a half hermit anyway. But all the tournaments have been canceled, and we were supposed to have one this coming Saturday, and I've been tossing it back and forth, and I was like, well, mainly I just don't want a bunch of people to come by and see like 30 cars in the front and be like, oh God, because they did say try to keep it to a minimum of 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to freak, so we did postpone that, which sucked. But a lot of the national shoots are canceled. Can't eat at a restaurant. What else? Toilet paper. We've it's got bad in the shop, because TJ went in there earlier, and I was like, I'm sorry, buddy, we're out. So he had to go out and bend over out back, and I had to hose him down. It was,
that's what I was about to say.
Did you get
Everybody
dried
got
off?
a shower and a hose pipe, so if your neighbors, you might want to tell them, just don't look that way. If they see you outside, that'd be my guess, my best advice.
But this has done got crazy.
I believe so, man.
I still think we got a couple wild weeks of it. So hope y'all are holding up good. I guess the good thing is you can shoot your bow at home for the most part, and but you just can't. There's not any tournaments happening, so we're hoping a lot of other ones don't get canceled. It looks like pretty much April's shot.
Pretty much.
Hopefully May will be okay. Hopefully nobody's watching has got anybody they know that has it or anything, but it's wild. Never seen anything like this before.
Nope.
So let us know what we can do for you. Give us some questions for our podcast. You can email us, archershack@gmail.com. You can text us 843-560-9898. You can comment on any of our YouTube stuff. We try to look at it before we do our podcast and get all the questions off of there. We'll keep doing our live Thursday nights. We'll keep doing our podcast. We'll keep doing our videos on Sunday. This coming Sunday, I've got what boat did I video? Elite E35. It'll be coming out. I got to put it together. Had some good feedback from that VXR video last week. So anyway, what else we need to talk about?
I don't know.
Some Hot Pockets would be great right now.
Pepperoni pizza one?
Man. They just started delivering Grubhub to the shop a couple weeks ago. I'm losing all my money to Grubhub.
How many times do they deliver out here in a day?
And I've only ordered it twice, and then Scott's been out here and he ordered it a couple times. And we out here in the middle of nowhere. For somebody to bring us food out here, we some high-tech rednecks. Let me tell you what, this is some fancy stuff. We in big city life out here now.
Well, out here down at the house, it still ain't nothing down there. If I wanted to get internet at my house, I called up. They said, "Oh, we can give you a dial-up." I'm like, "Dial-up?" So I was like, "Well, forget dial-up."
Man. Yeah, I couldn't imagine going back to dial-up. But anyway, I guess we'll get off here. What time is it?
6:51.
Good 20-minute live. But we'll post any kind of updates on our Facebook page. As of right now, we're still open, normal hours for business. Hadn't really changed anything. We wiped off a few things to make sure nobody caught the China cough. And hopefully, we've actually had a good bit of business coming through, because I guess people are at home tinkering with their bows.
Yeah,
And
had a bunch of bows dropped off for this time of the year.
Let us know if we can do anything for you. And we'll see you on the next video.
See y'all.
Y'all have a good evening.